Okay, welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation with Lynn George. Now, Lynn, let me just kind of ask you, because you have coming up a project.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about the project and the purpose of it, and give us the details as well.
Okay, the project is called the Brandon's Window Gaps Project. It's not just Brandon's Window, it's Gut and Psychology Syndrome and Dr. Chris, all of us combined together, because Dr. Chris is in Brandon's Window, so everything dealing with him is in Brandon's Window book, and then Gut and Psychology. So we put it together. It's something like, well, y'all can understand, a gumbo. So
Right.
I took Dr. Chris's natural method, Dr. Natasha's natural method, and then what we do as a family, and put that all together, and everything's working where
Right.
it's just amazing, the things that he's doing. in
Okay,
such a
and
short
then
period of time.
you said you had something coming up. When is that scheduled?
It's going to be July 16th, which
Okay.
is this Saturday,
This
from
Saturday.
9:30 until 4 o'clock, and it's free. We're trying to teach families to teach, target, empower with the knowledge
Right.
to reverse the symptoms of autism using natural treatment. But not only that, this diet and lifestyle not only is with autism, it's with eczema, asthma, and a host of
Right.
a plethora of
Okay.
other things. So everything deals
Sure.
with the gut.
And where would this be held?
This is going to be held at the North Branch Library in Gray,
Okay.
Louisiana. Yeah.
All right, good. And Miss Sadie, during the break, you were getting ready to add something, I think after your husband had spoke, but tell us a little bit about how you were telling that, it's kind of a concerted
Yes.
effort by everybody.
I was saying that it takes everyone involved, related, need to be on board to help these kids. It's so frustrating. That's one of Brandon's words too. It's so frustrating for one parent or a couple to deal with these children. In fact, it zaps the life out of them.
Yeah.
And when we saw what we needed to do, Brandon has a host of relatives and that will, whatever we tell him to do. For example, Brandon can stay with someone now. At first, you couldn't leave him with anyone.
Right.
He's an independent child.
Sure.
He says, "See you later."
Yeah.
When we
right.
were leaving. So
that's very good.
it's very, and it has. I have seen or heard of parents that split because it's so taxing on them, and they get so frustrated. Well, you've heard
Right.
of some of the things that parents will do to children like that.
Yeah.
But with love and kindness, and you have to take the time to try to help these kids, and they can be helped.
Right.
Because we have found that even though Brandon wasn't verbal, there was something in him. He had a lot in him that we did not know. But once his gut started getting okay,
Right.
everything started flowing, and that was the breakthrough.
Sure,
That was
and
the
the big,
breakthrough.
yeah,
And the big
yeah,
breakthrough,
right.
right.
And Mr. George, I know we were talking a little bit during the break, and apparently Brandon's shooting a little hoops now, huh?
Yes, he is. My daughter filmed his shooting hoops at one of the gym over in Mechanicsville.
Yeah.
And so when I look at that, and I'm a physical education teacher.
Sure.
And teaching children with nothing wrong with them, and I know how much time it takes, to teach a child to do some of the skills of
Right.
shooting, dribbling, and shooting a basketball. And Brandon is doing this, and so I can appreciate the progress that Brandon is making,
Right.
in these skills, eye coordination and hand coordination and focusing on the basket and things like that. So he's coming along very well. Some personal things that I have done with Brandon. When I say personal thing, it was some progress that he's making. I cut his hair the other day.
Uh-huh.
And his father was cutting his hair prior to that. along with his mother. His mother had to hold him. She had to, because the experience, what you just don't realize what a child with autism, what he's going through.
Right.
You just don't understand what the experience,
Right.
the feel of this clipper to his head. You just don't understand it. And why can't you sit still and have your hair cut? Your mother's holding you. Why can't you? But see, it's something that you have, going through these things, and it all stems from the gut sin, the things, when and until when this began to work, then other things began to work. Brandon said when his mother would have to hold him, and he would scream, and these are people that's around him all the time.
Yeah.
He would scream, and it would take hours to cut his hair. Brandon said one time, and it was a character that he would recall, that he said, "I can do it." What's that character?
Okay.
I can do it, Wubsy.
He would say,
Yeah.
Okay.
He would say, "Wubsy, you can do it. Wubsy, you
Wubsy.
can do it."
Yeah.
And he said, and it brought tears to our eyes, because
Sure.
he said, "I can do it. I can do it." And Brandon sit in the chair, and from that time on, he sat in the chair, and he let me cut his hair.
Right. Oh, that's an inspiring story. I really
Let me
appreciate
cut his hair.
you sharing that with us.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So
okay.
the progress, you see this. It's not a day-to-day progress that
Right.
that these children are making.
Okay. And Lynn, let me get back to you. And I read some of the stuff, an article in the paper, as well as and I know you're not here to talk about yourself, but I do think it's interesting, or at least it goes, because unfortunately you were involved in an accident, and it kind of, why don't you just tell us a little bit about, I guess because of that, unfortunately, you had some time on your hands. So how did you kind of utilize that time in dealing with this? Why don't you share that part of the story?
Well, I was a teacher down 6th Ward Middle down Chack Bay, and I was coming from Thibodeau, and these students coming from Thibodeau High, their car just stalled in front of me. I was going like 40 miles an hour, so I knew that an impact was going to happen, but I thought I was going to kill them, really. So I stepped on the brakes, like with all my might, like standing on the brakes. And I thought I was okay. So I went to work the next day, but mosquitoes were like biting my legs. That's what it felt like. And then a pressure I couldn't get rid of. Come to find out, I had 2 herniated discs, and they were really bad. So for 5 years, I was in bed. I was in severe pain because they wouldn't do surgery on me because they said it was a chance that I'd be paralyzed. So that was an orthopedic surgeon. So I went to a neurologist, and he did surgery on me. He gave me a 20% better, quality of life. But during this time, Brandon was diagnosed with autism. So what I did was just read. I had no idea what autism was, so I just started reading and finding out things just to know. But come to find out, this accident to me was a blessing, because having a disability, you have to do things differently. So I can relate to what he's going through. So I'm like observing and seeing a way to do things differently, and that's how that began.
That's truly amazing. It's kind of like when you hear, God's work in one
Exactly.
way, you know, kind of allows you to have time and doing it now.
You know, and it's like opportunities that you would have had, you know, God allows you to have other opportunities and things. And this is so rewarding. I can't even explain how rewarding it is, you know, to do this. And then there's a lot of things I can't do, like I can't make up a bed. If I do, I'm back in the bed. I can't
see.
push a grocery basket,
Right.
you know, things like that. So I'm very limited to doing so. I live with my parents, so
Right.
you know,
I see.
that helps me and everything, and they help me with Brandon.
Now, let me just ask you a little bit, because you went visit Dr. Green, and then I guess there's a suggestion that perhaps you know, a lifestyle change is made
Right.
for Brandon.
Correct.
And I know it's a day-to-day thing, but I mean, is there a time period, I guess, after that when you started the change in the diet and you know, detox? I mean,
right.
When
What
did you
happened
start
was-
noticing something? I guess.
Brandon went to see Dr. Chris December of 2007. And what Dr. Chris did, the first thing he did was do a hair analysis. And a hair analysis tells all what's going on, the type of chemicals that's in the brain. And then he did what you call, once the hair analysis came back, that took like 3 months, he did what you call a Nest health scan.
Okay.
And it's a computer thing, and it's done in Europe, where you put your hand on and you test the stress levels of the body. And then you're given these infoceuticals. But along with the infoceuticals, Dr. Chris did what you call whole food and natural supplementation. Then he gave us this book around in January.
Okay.
In January, to read Gut and Psychology Syndrome. Well, I didn't get to Atlanta until April. So his Brandon's maternal grandmother was telling me about the book. And so when I got it, I started reading it. I couldn't put it down.
Right.
And I'm going like, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, duly noted, there weren't these type of diseases going on. It might have been 1 in 10,000 had autism, and we didn't really know what it was.
Right.
And there were things like, there was no cancer, no diabetes,
Right.
no, you know, different things like that, because people ate off the land.
Right.
And I remember when I was young, my grandmother would get her vegetables off the vegetable truck from the man, or
Right.
a chicken, they would
Sure.
go wring the chicken's
Yeah.
neck back there. So there weren't these preservatives and pesticides and things like that. So what's going on is finally catching up with us
Right.
in this generation.
Okay.
So that's what's happening. So when a child has a low immune system and they're getting the shot, you know, and the shot does not cause autism, it just triggers it. So they get the shot and they have the low immune system, it causes inflammation, and the inflammation is what shuts down the body, and this is what happens
I see.
in the organs, and
Now,
that's all it is.
Okay, now, in terms of a time period, you said that, so when did actually y'all start, I guess, changing the diet, or?
We started, I say February of 2008.
I see.
And then we started seeing results. I can tell you this, what happened was, his neck started getting big, and he didn't eat for 5 days, and he was very lethargic. So, and green stuff was coming out his nose, and his breath smelled like garbage.
Okay.
Seriously, it was like
Right, I understand.
day-old garbage. So we were worried, so we called Dr. Chris. Dr. Chris says he's just going through getting all of that out. It's going to be okay. You know, don't worry. And then by the 8th day, his skin had bumps on it, like chill bumps.
Right.
Then the day after, his skin started glowing, and then I heard him say this, because I was the only one in the house with him.
Right.
He had diapers on. He said, "What are you doing, Nana?" And I'm going like, "What did you say?" Yeah, so,
Right.
and then he said nothing after that. So later on that day, this was in April, because it was during spring break, he was on the sofa and he was being mischievous. And I said, "Boy, if you don't get down from there," and he goes, "Uh-oh." So he had a reaction.
Right.
Then we went to, in May, we went to Orlando, Florida to stay with my parents. Then things started really happening, like the spelling of the words, and then
Right.
he's saying something, and then he was able to answer one question. So I stayed in Atlanta for another 4 months, and I said, "Mom, you're not gonna believe, Daddy, you're not gonna believe what's
Right.
going on." I said, "I have to get a camera." So I got a camera and I started documenting. So then I saw Dr. Chris. I didn't meet Dr. Chris until I think it was August of 2008. And that's when he couldn't
Right.
believe, because Brandon was reading and then answering questions, and he said, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
So then he had me on the radio show, and that's how the book. And then he called me out and he says, "You have to write a book," right there on the radio show. So that's when I had to do it, because he called me out publicly on it.
Very, very interesting. I appreciate what we need to do. We need to take another break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to continue our interesting discussion, so don't go away.